I fell in love with the Denver Broncos in the 1996 season. Remember the devastating loss to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and started following them and cutting out every single Denver Post headline after each game starting the 1997 season. Those headlines are still in my parents' basement in a manila folder. And I don't ever recall a time where the Denver Broncos were in the holding pattern that we are in currently. We are in the craziest time where we don't even know what to predict. We don't know how to mock draft. We don't know any of that because everything hinges on this Russell Wilson holding pattern. And it seems like every single day you hear a different analyst come out and say, oh, I'm hearing news that Russ is going to go and sign here, or I'm hearing news that he's going to be back, or he's going to open up his contract and the Denver Broncos are going to be able to negotiate it down and surround him with talent and all that. But we are in this holding pattern, and so much interesting news has come out that I wanted to dive into in this episode and so much more. If you're new to this channel, my name is Ben. I break down all things Denver sports, and so we're looking here at this piece of news that has just recently been just flying all over and being aggregated, and that is that next year Russell Wilson will not be wearing orange and blue. Instead, he's going to be cut by the Denver Broncos, according to Jeremy Fowler and his anonymous sources. Jeremy Fowler is very, very plugged in, but the fact that this is an anonymous source has me questioning the validity of it, yet the fact that he put his name behind it makes me think that he is confident in this anonymous source. And so what he's saying is that the Denver Broncos would cut Russell Wilson and Russell Wilson would sign with the Las Vegas Raiders. So just how insane that you just look at this AFC West and the turnaround that just has happened in a few years. And to have Harbaugh and Herbert in Los Angeles, to have Reed and Mahomes in Kansas City, and now could Russell Wilson be with Antonio Pierce in Las Vegas as the quarterback for the Raiders. And so what he's saying is that when Russell Wilson made his famous "I would waive my no trade clause to go here" list, so that was when the Denver Broncos were able to procure Russell Wilson. He was with Seattle, and he said he had a no trade clause in his contract, but he said, here are the places I would let you trade me. He wants to be on the West Coast. His wife, Sierra, is a performer, and so she can do long stints in like a Vegas casino, and so he would love to be in Vegas as well. And so the fact is he could go on a really small deal, right, where we would owe him the remainder of his contract. He could go to Las Vegas on just a vet minimum deal, and then the Raiders could surround him with all the riches because they don't have to pay a quarterback. So that'd be kind of a stinky thing. Broncos country, how would you feel about playing Russell Wilson twice a year as a Raider? Very interesting to hear that. Also read a great piece here, and this is from Predominantly Orange, and it went through the 3 reasons why they don't think Russell Wilson will be here in the future. The first one just being the massive size of his contract. The second one being just the schematic misfit that Russell Wilson is with the Denver Broncos. And this was one of the more telling things, that all last season, and he did miss the final 2 games as a caveat, he only had 17 completions across the middle of the field. That's a stat we've shared multiple times, but this is a ranking of quarterbacks' completions in the middle of the field between the hashes, and you see that the 2 bottom quarterbacks in this list is Russell Wilson at 6% of his passes were between the numbers. And then I found this really interesting article that was just talking about the importance of tight ends in the middle of the field in Sean Payton's system. And you just see that like some of the best tight ends you could name, if you just rattled off tight ends in your head that weren't with the New England Patriots, you would name a lot of tight ends who were linked to Sean Payton, and that the middle of the field, especially with the tight end, is a part of Sean Payton's offense. And so that's where he and Dan Campbell, the coach of the Lions now, had their relationship kind of start when Campbell was a player for him. And then you had Jason Witten when he was a assistant coach for Bill Parcells in the Dallas Cowboys. Jeremy Shockey, obviously Jimmy Graham in the middle of the field, and then Benjamin Watson. And he just seems to get the most out of tight ends and the most out of the middle of the field. So my big question with Russ is, if Russell Wilson has a serviceable tight end, we know we didn't give him that this year, that Dulcich didn't start and finish a single game. He started a couple games, but he didn't finish any because of injuries. Everyone says that is not going to be the case next year, and that Dulcich can come back. And then the other really big, interesting thing here is that a lot of rumors have the Denver Broncos getting Arkansas native and just a beast of a man, the tight end who's now with the Patriots, but originally drafted by the Chargers, Hunter Henry. So that could be a very interesting combination here of, could the Denver Broncos sign him and pair him with Russ, or is the idea here that we sign him and pair him with Stidham, or as Sean Payton likes to call him, pair him with Stiddy? Irregardless of how we fill the quarterback spot, we need help at tight end. And so we need either a cold, hard money-back guarantee that Dulcich is going to be able to start and finish the season, and that maybe he can step up into that famous joker role, as Sean Payton calls it, that role where you can't, he's too big to guard with a corner. He's too fast to guard with a linebacker. Like, we need that X factor, and I think Dulcich could be him, but we have seen that Hunter Henry could be him, and he is a free agent, and that's definitely a possibility for us moving forward. A couple other interesting things that we're just 3 games away now from the Super Bowl, which is hard to believe. It's always that sad time of year where it's like the night is always darkest before the dawn, and the days are shorter, and it's so dark outside, and we only have 3 games of football left, and it's super sad. And with the Super Bowl just 3 games away, the odds for next year's Super Bowl came out, and those are concerning as well if you're a Broncos fan, because we are tied for second worst odds to win the Super Bowl next year. I'm not a big betting guy whatsoever, but I do think that this Vegas is in it to make money, and they have a pretty good record. And so that's concerning to me. My hope is that those lower odds and those lower expectations for the Broncos are all about this holding pattern we're in. We could go so many different ways. Like, do we re-sign Russ and we can surround him with talent? I think that skyrockets our odds. Like, if Russ comes back on a lower deal and all of a sudden we have free agent money, we certainly can win with Russ on a renegotiated deal. If we cut Russ and we have to like rebuild a youth movement, I think these odds are probably pretty accurate. Do we trade up and get the next year's CJ Stroud? Then I think our odds go up again. So I think right now our odds are so bad to make the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl next year, just because nobody knows. Like, there is so much uncertainty now that it's hard to even make predictions there as we go. Last big piece of news is that it seems as if the entire NFL wants to get our defensive back coach, and who can blame him? You see what not only like how he's developed Pat Surtain. Like, we always knew Pat Surtain could be the man, but he has helped make him the man. And then his name's Christian Parker, just absolute beast. Every one of his players loves him. You hear how Vance Joseph talks about him, and you even hear how Sean Payton talks about him. And you could honestly see a world where in 2 to 3 years, if this defense keeps improving and Vance Joseph gets a head coaching job because of his success, you could see a world where Christian Parker is calling the defense for the Denver Broncos. But unfortunately, I don't think we'll get to that, because there's still, we know Dan Quinn is probably going to get that job in Seattle, and there's going to be all these moves still to make, and they're going to need new staffs. And I would be very surprised if Christian Parker makes it to be with the Denver Broncos again, just because he showed such high hopes, such promise, and saw what he got out of Jaquan McMillian, an undrafted dude. And so you just see a lot here, a lot of potential there. But last thing I wanted to try here is I've been doing just trying different ways to end this channel's shows. Like, when we had Russ, I would always say Broncos country. I can't say that anymore. And so what about, I've been trying like, hey, stick with me and Broncos country, let's stay buckled up. Then I was thinking the other day, like, what if I just ended with like Dak Prescott, here we go. Like, all right, well, thanks for watching Broncos country. Here we go. Does anyone like that? Hopefully I didn't just lose a bunch of subscribers. Instead, Broncos country, giddy up.